everyone! Welcome to the channel dedicated to sharing the profound insights and wisdom of Andromedan contactee Alex Collier. If you're new here, you're in for a journey that expands your mind and consciousness, bringing you closer to understanding the messages from the fifth density Andromedan extraterrestrials. For those returning, we're grateful for your continued support. Before we dive into today's enlightening content, we have a small favor to ask. If you find value in the knowledge shared in this video, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing to our channel, and clicking the bell icon so you never miss an update. Your engagement helps us amplify Alex Collier's message, allowing us to reach a larger audience with these vital messages. We'd also love to hear from you, so please engage with the comments below. Whether it's a question, your thoughts, or even just an emoji for the sake of engagement, every comment counts. We read every single comment, and your feedback is incredibly valuable to us. Additionally, if you'd like to support us further, consider giving a super thanks tip by clicking the heart with the $sign. This small gesture allows us to continue bringing you more of Alex's messages, unfiltered and directly from his lifelong experiences with the Andromedans. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's video.
So, thank you very much for attending. Now, I have to pre-warn you, everybody's a little bit sniffly this week, so please bear with us. Bones are crunching, noses are running, but apart from that, Alex, what are you going to be talking about today?
Whatever you just mentioned. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. I hope you all had a great Christmas and a good or decent New Year's Day. Change. You know, it's there's here in the United States, there is so much going on that it's really hard to keep track of it. And more people here are beginning to see through the narratives. And in Europe, when I can, I like to go on YouTube and catch up on Nigel Farage. He's like the Ron Paul of the European Union. And I like how he talks and his directness. And you know, what's interesting is what's happening in France and other places. I'll get it together here. Okay. Literally what's happening is many people around the planet are fed up with the governments, their governments, completely ignoring the will of the people. The reason governments exist is because of the people. In virtually every case, even when you're a monarchy, you only have a kingdom because the people choose to be there, because the people choose to serve the monarchy. Well, most of those monarchies don't even exist anymore because the people refuse to serve the monarchies, at least the way they were, because the people give and give and give, and they never got anything back except higher taxes, more laws to take away their freedom, and then more taxes, and then more laws to take their freedoms away. And you can only keep your boot on the neck of people for so long before the people just say, that's it, I'm done. Now, this is happening all over the planet. And I get emails, and I know other speakers do as well, saying, well, nothing's happening. We don't see anything happening. And you have to understand that there is a lot happening. You just don't hear about it because the media is owned by the corporations that control most of the planet. So they're only going to tell you what they want because they have to control the narrative. Now, with all the changes that are going on around the world, with the central banking system being taken away from the Rothschilds, you've got at least 204 countries that are abandoning the central bank system and are going back to their own treasuries and printing their own currencies. That are at least 204 are involved in a reset that will in fact occur at some point here in the very near future. Because what's happened is that they've all come to the same conclusion at the same time, that this entire IMF, BIS banking system was built for the sole purpose of stealing the wealth of the nations and its citizens, and then bulldozing over it and starting something new. Now, many people say, well, yeah, but, we don't see anything else that's happening. Well, there is a Cold War going on, not only on the ground here, on the surface, but also in space. Now, if the 13 banking families of the old Roman Empire still had so much control, and it wasn't being threatened, they wouldn't be worried. But the fact is they're very worried. And the reason they're worried is because they don't have the protection of their alien lords. Because they're being removed from the equation, which is what we talked about years ago was going to happen, I and other speakers. That is systematically happening. And whatever's left here of the alien lords, the regressive specifically, there's just pockets and they're being removed. That is an ongoing process. This leaves the cabal, the deep state, the Illuminati, basically on their own. They're naked, okay? And they've been careless. Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, that's in the UN. There are other programs that are coming up or have been or are in the process of being implemented, where the decision was to remove a significant portion of the Earth's population. What's interesting is that these countries that are breaking away from the central banking system, they're aware of what's going on, and they're the ones that are going to suffer. And there is no amount of money that you can go to bed with at night if you know that your entire country is going to be destroyed or imploded. That's really the movement that's behind all this. And on a subconscious level, a lot of humanity gets this. They just don't know how to say it. They don't know how to express it because they haven't put all the pieces together yet. But the information is coming out. It is leaking all over the place. It's leaking like a sieve, to be honest with you. Now, the changes that are occurring on the ruling class that involves, not only the horrific things of pedophilia, human trafficking, murder, but the reality of creating wars, the reality of destroying countries and stealing their natural resources. All of these things that have been happening. And it isn't just the Western countries that have done this. Countries all over the planet have done this to each other forever. They've done this. Very predatory. There has come a reckoning amongst world leaders. I caution to not necessarily call them all white hats, although I'm sure that there is a fair amount of folks in these political groups and governments that are white hats. But even some of the brown hats, okay, the lightly yellow hats, when it finally dawns on you what the plan is and how quickly it's coming up to be implemented, they just don't want to do it. They don't want to go through with it. Their innate consciousness, their common sense, that part of them, the soul that really knows right from wrong, has suddenly slammed on the brakes and said, no, we cannot do this. I cannot do this. And that's the process that's going on right now. They're called whistleblowers to the rest of the world. That's what's happening. People are coming forward. They're flipping. And more information's coming out. Here in the States, January 2nd, just a few days ago, the military trials, the Tribune, the military trials have begun. There's not a lot of information out there. Much of it's dark, but they've begun, okay? Here in the United States, they're starting to drop the hammer. And of course, the media in this country is completely lost all sense of reality. I don't know how it is in all other countries, but I know it's going on in other places as well. Now, in stripping away the regressive alien mafia, for lack of a better word, the henchmen are no longer protected. And now they're scrambling. They're looking for a place to hide, and there is nowhere to hide for these folks. And there never should be a place for them to hide. Now, the European Union, we were just talking about this with James and JP. There's an election, a election of the chairman or chancellor of the EU, and they're making a big deal about it. That it's an election, it's a fair election. There's only one candidate, but it's a fair election, and the election's in secret. Okay, you'll never know who voted what because they don't want to tell you. And that's representative democracy today, all right? And, I think people understand from all walks of life that they would rather have freedom than slavery. And you can't tell them they're slaves because they'll rebel. And the minute they realize they're slaves, they will rebel. And that's what's happening. Everybody's beginning to realize that we've lived in a system and an environment that's been so controlled, so manipulated, that if you take a few steps back, you don't recognize it. The minute you alter your perception in any slight variance, this whole thing is like, oh my God, what have we been doing? People are coming to that. (2019, 2020), the next few years, while all these political upheavals are going on, maybe environmental changes, geological changes, it's hard to say for sure how all those things are going to play out, because there is some type of intervention occurring, and there has been. I don't know exactly where or how these things will continue. But the ultimate goal here is for humanity to take a step to give humanity the opportunity to rise to the occasion and stand on its own 2 feet. Okay? And declare itself, this is important to know, to declare itself free. And I'm not talking just from the regressives, okay? When we're talking about free, I'm also talking about from the last intelligent race that was here that altered our DNA. That would be Nibiru. That's what I mean by being free. Now, there are multiple levels of changes that are occurring. And some of this is so difficult to put into words because you have economic shifts and changes going on. And then on top of that, you have geopolitical changes that are going on. Then you have environmental changes that are going on. Then you have planetary changes that are going on. And then you have consciousness changes and shifts that are all going on. And it's a holograph of shifts and changes that move like oil in water. It's moving back and forth. Things shift, they move in, and then they move again. And it's all relative to frequency. Depending upon the frequency of humanity, of what we're thinking about, how we're feeling, our emotions, very important. Our heart space, critical. All those things come into play, and they matter dramatically to what happens to humanity, which is why they are so desperate to control the narrative. Because they have to keep you locked into the reality that they created for us to keep us enslaved, you see. They can't let us get out. Okay? They have to keep trying to bring us back in. And they're running out of resources to do this. And more people are staying out of it. They're just fed up. They intuitively know that this is a bum deal. This is absolutely a bum deal. And they're staying out of it. They're not allowing themselves to be drawn back in. especially old rascals like us, okay, who have seen a thing or two, okay, and know a thing or two. Now, I wish I felt better. Sorry. I have to say some things here about the United States. And the current presidential administration, the Trump administration, is doing everything it can to break the United States free of the cabal. The corruption in our country, our government, is bad. And it's deep. It's got very deep roots. I'm actually quite shocked at how bad it was or is. And, I've been talking about this for 25 years, and I'm just like, oh my God. It's just like, whew, man, it stinks to high heaven. But the administration is doing a lot of things. And one of the best things it's doing is exposing those who clearly claim to love America, but clearly hate Americans. And I'm referring to in politics and in corporations as well, global international corporations. There is going to be a currency change in the United States. It's coming. Many of the banks already have the new currency. There are moves afoot behind the scenes to make this happen, to eliminate the USD, the fiat Federal Reserve note, and replace it with a USN, United States note, printed by the United States Treasury. It's definitely going to come. Now, there are several reasons why this has to happen. The Federal Reserve Banking Consortium was set up essentially to rob the United States of all its wealth. And that's exactly what it's nearly done. That's number one. Number two, to use the United States note, the USD rather, as the world's reserve currency so they could plunder the whole world, so that in the end, when everything implodes, they could blame it on the United States. Scapegoat. Because these are bankers. They know exactly how to plan these things out. Plus, some of them are Nephilim and have extraterrestrial genes, and they have the ability to do holographic thinking. So they knew how to think far enough in advance and to put certain things into place so that when this whole house of cards came down, it would all fall down on one country. And they planned this very well. Two, in 2026, which is just 7 years from now, the interest on our own currency that we're supposed to pay the Federal Reserve is more than what we spend on national defense, which means that in 7 years, there'll be no money for defense of our country. The wall, the borders, they won't exist because there will be no money to support it. Trump knows this. The White Hats, Department of Defense, they know this. And why anyone would want to willingly destroy the United States is completely beyond me. But those people exist, and there's lots of them in Washington, D.C. So the Federal Reserve has to go. Not only that, but if you take down the Federal Reserve, you eliminate the USD as the world's reserve currency, which actually would be a good thing at this point. And you go to a basket of currencies, and you create more balance. You take the cabal out of the equation, and all of the assets that they have and they hold that aren't physical, but are stocks, bonds, everything else, where they control multiple corporations in USD, it's all gone. It's all gone because no one's going to take it. No one's going to take USD. They want asset-backed USNs, US notes by the Treasury, which is what we had, a constitutional currency. Other countries are doing this as well. China, I think Sunday morning, they're releasing their gold-backed yuan. Okay, that they're going live with it. And other countries are doing the same thing now. So it's beginning to happen. Now, why aren't you hearing anything about this in the media? Because it's all controlled by the cabal. That's why. Okay, it's the blinders. It's the blinders. The less you know, the easier to control you are. The more you know, you become a problem for them. So they try to do their best to keep everybody ignorant. That's what's happening. There is no way to stop this. There have been 25 attempts on President Trump's life. The last one, I understand, was just a couple days ago. A couple days ago, military people, along with the Secret Service and some white hat FBI agents, walked into the White House and arrested two or three Marines that guard the outside of the White House because of a conspiracy to assassinate the president. This is what I've heard. Now, you're never going to hear about this in the media. All you're going to hear about now is impeachment, 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 impeachment. Now, they're scrambling to get Trump out because the military tribunals have begun. And there are bad apples on both sides of the aisle. No question about it. No question about it. And I mean no offense when I say this, but I'm just telling you the way it is. The things that the Democratic Party have been doing for the last 45 years are going to make your hair curl. No shit. There may not be a Democratic Party in the next 5 years. It may not exist at all. And this is nothing personal. It's just about the fact that for all their finger pointing of the Republicans being the corporate mongrels, okay, the Democrats have mastered. They have mastered organized crime. For example, yesterday, the hypocrisy of Nancy Pelosi. She stood in front of the Congress and she talked about how proud it was to be a woman and to be here representing women on the 100th anniversary of women's right to vote. The hypocrisy here was not a single Democrat voted back in the 20s to give women the right to vote. It was the Republicans who gave women the right to vote, not the Democrats. Not one voted for women to have the right to vote. And it's just things like that over and over and over again. All of these things are going to be exposed. Biblical, these are very touchy areas. Biblical things, biblical history, or non-history that we've been told is history, is going to be coming out and exposed. One of those things that I just want to share with you, or put the idea in your head, the question is, suppose Solomon's temple never existed. Suppose it didn't exist at all. Suppose the equations that were given belong to a temple, let's say, of the Mesopotamians, by chance? Had nothing to do with Solomon or the Ivory, the Hebrew. Yeah, just what about that? Okay. What about the Vatican's scribe, codifier, who was transcribing scrolls talking about the genetic manipulation of humanity by an extraterrestrial race that the Vatican has had for quite some time, and decided to fire the scriber and coder who was transcribing all this work, and then threatened his life if he talked about it. Now, we know that information's out there because the Sumerians left excellent records, at least 5,000 tablets of just such history. Well, apparently these scrolls that the church has were from the Library of Alexandria. Now, all this time, they've never said they had these records. Okay? So I wonder what else they have. Now, what does that do to the Old Testament? Okay? Kind of blows it out of the water, doesn't it? All of these things are going to be coming to light, and they're going to be coming fast and furious. I don't know if we're actually really dealing with a timeline, or that as humanity's consciousness expands, and my understanding is it comes in waves, all right? As more people wake up, more people elevate more. As more people wake up, that group elevates more. And the expansion of consciousness and the ability to process more information becomes far greater and faster. That's what's happening now. And that's why there is this full out onslaught of negative information every day about specific people. Abraham Lincoln once asked the question, are we fitted for the times? And I'd have to say yes. I honestly have to say that I think certain people are fitted for the times, and they come and they appear to make an incredible course correction. Now, whether or not it's divinely ordained, it's hard to say. I do believe that spirit has a hand in everything. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to say this because this is exactly how I feel. I truly believe that Donald Trump, at this particular time, is the guy who is fitted for the times to make this course correction, to move humanity in another direction. Because he is taken the cabal to task. And he's exposing them, he is flushing them out, and he has taken all the arrows, he and his family. And I am absolutely shocked at the incredible disrespect for the office of the presidency that I see in this country. And if the Democrats were ever successful in impeaching him, I would basically say the United States as a constitutional republic would be done. It would be over, officially over. And whether you like them or not, if you look at the facts, and I'm not talking about the media because they're lying darlings. They absolutely are. They just make shit up all the time. If you really look at the facts and you look at the information that's being released through military channels, intelligence channels, other speakers that have channels, you have to know, you really need to understand that the implementation of Agenda 21 was begun. It was begun. And you have to understand what that means. It means that the plan was already in motion to eliminate in the next 10 to 15 years 1/2 to 2/3 of the world's population. That's what this group was going to do. It's not okay. It is not okay. And I don't think enough people actually get that. I don't think they feel it. And the one country that was really blocking all of that was the United States of America. And they put a real serious hurt on us. January 16th, we have another convoy from Honduras coming. Apparently this one's about 15, 16, 17,000 people already. They anticipate picking up more people as they come through Mexico. Many of those who were stuck and still in Mexico are going to be banding up with this new group. And their plan is to rush the border. This is not okay. This is not okay. It's just not okay. I think there's a legal way to do this. I think there's an appropriate way to do this. I mean, hell, my grandparents on both sides of my family were immigrants to the United States. But these are serious times. These are very, very serious times. And these are the things that are going to be confronting us like now. All of these issues. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that what you focus on is what you create. There have been 3 studies by physicists. Does reality exist if you're not looking at it? These are completely 3 different trials. They were all done in different places of the world with completely different types of measures. And they all concluded the same thing. Okay, reality doesn't exist if you're not looking at it. So what is it that the cabal wants? What is it that the regressives want? They want your energy. They want your mental focus, because that's what's creating reality. Okay? What you focus on, energy flows where focus goes, or focus, well, you know what I'm trying to say. That's what they want. They want you to look at this. They want you to focus on this type of thing, this frequency, this fear, the idea that you cannot be responsible for yourself, that you cannot rule or regulate yourself, that you're sinners, you should be punished, you're infidels, you're deplorables, yada, 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 yada. All bullshit. Okay? It's all bullshit. It's not bullshit if you believe it, though. You make it real. And that's the point here. Okay? With all these things that are going on, we have to be able to step back and focus on what it is we do want. We have to change the narrative. And that means we have to become the narrative, a new narrative. And it begins with you. It begins with you. It begins with me. It begins with you. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. People are getting this. The 100th monkey situation. People are getting this. They're waking up. Everyone's beginning to suddenly get on the same page. It may not seem like it because most people aren't talking to others about it, because there's so much anger, there's so much hate. And people don't like to be attacked. They don't, so they keep things to themselves. But they know people are waking up in this way. The narrative has to change, and we're the ones that have to do it. And through all this stuff that's going on, the taking down of the cabal, the changing of the financial system, the changing of governmental structures, say from a corporate government to a organic constitutional government, and all the other changes that are going on. And they're going on. They're going to be occurring. We have to be cognizant that what they want is our focus. And you can't just not know what's going on. You have to constantly focus on what it is that you want. That's the only way we're going to change this narrative. The aliens are not going to come in and say, okay, we're going to get rid of the Democrats. We're going to get rid of the European Union Parliament. They're not going to do any of that. All right? That is not what they agreed to do. They came in here to remove this other group that had no business being here in the first place, number one. And number two, that we couldn't deal with ourselves because of how advanced they are. And the fact that most of them are real, genuine space scumbags, okay, who have been wanted for doing horrific things in other star systems. So they're getting their comeuppance. But our governments, that's on us. Okay, that's on us. And there are ways to handle this. But the first is to understand where your power is. Okay, what's the seat of your power? It's your attention. Okay, it's what you focus on. That's what they want. Okay, because that gives their reality, this nightmare they've created for everyone, gives it solidity. And the solidity that they were creating is for us to take ourselves out. Okay? Why would we do that? Why would we do this? Okay? They have to be called on it. They have to be called on it. And I'm telling you, and I don't care how mad you get at me for this, Trump is not the enemy, folks. He is not the enemy. He is not the Antichrist. He's just not. And he's the guy right now in the United States that is fitted for the times to help make this course correction for the United States of America, for the citizens, the people of this country. Everyone needs to take a step back. They need to take a couple of deep breaths, and they need to really look at what's going on. Hard data as to what's been going on in this country and how it's being overthrown. Okay, completely against the will of the people. And this is going on in Europe as well. Look what's going on in Britain. The Brits voted for Brexit. Is that happening? No, because the government doesn't care what the people think. So is it your country or not? That's what a lot of Americans are asking. Is this our country or not? You know, whose country is it? That's why the banking cabals have to be taken out of the equation completely. That's the first step. That really is. At the same time, you deal with your traitors and those who committed sedition. You take them out of the equation as well, because that's the leadership of the opposition. And they have been operating in plain view for years. Okay. I wanted to talk about some other things, and I'm going to be going through the notes here. About lost technology and some history. This particular story was inspired, the research of this was inspired by Sean Morton, of all people. I always felt that Sean was one of the best speakers I've heard. He had an outstanding way of being very clear. He had an incredible sense of humor. And he was just a very pleasant guy, or maybe he still is. I haven't talked to Sean in years. But at one of the lectures that I attended of his back in the early 90s, he was talking about one of his trips to Tibet, to the Andes, and that he had been taken down through some trails, some valleys, to the opening of a cave, where occasionally, at certain times of the year, or I don't remember the exact schedule, the doors would open and monks or the inhabitants of the underground would come out and would present information to the monks, and then the monks in return give them gifts. And it was a remarkable story. Now, this particular story that I'm going to be sharing with you, this information became clear. There was a book written called The Chinese Roswell, and Hartwig Hausdorff, Hartwig Hausdorff. And what this talks about is a group of Russian scientists who went to Tibet because they hear things, and they wanted to visit many of the Tibetan monasteries. And the Soviet science academies have been far more open about specific types of information than Western academies have been. This particular group, this particular event happened in 1959. A group of Soviet scientists visited a number of Tibetan monasteries. One of the places that they visited was the monastery of Ganden, Ganden, located 40 miles south of Lhasa in Tibet. The monastery is at 12,400 feet. At the monastery, Soviet scientists met an aged, intelligent monk with profound knowledge of astronomy and space travel. The monk told them that he was convinced advanced and gifted alien beings had inhabited and were inhabiting other planets. The Soviet scientists were quite surprised when the monk boldly declared that he could, under proper conditions, visually achieve contact with them. So they called him on it. The scientists called him on it. In order to prove he was telling the truth, he offered a demonstration. The monk took 2 of the 5. He gave them lessons on meditative practices used specifically to achieve a strong amount of concentration. The other scientists were then put on a special diet for a couple of days. When the time was right, the Tibetan monk invited 2 of the scientists to come into his room. Inside, they were confronted with a strange, unknown machine that was standing in the middle of the room. The machine was a mystery to the scientists, as they had never seen anything like this. The machine was silent, didn't make any noise whatsoever. Suddenly, a cloudy face appeared out of nowhere in the room. This manifestation took on the form of a humanoid. The figure stood tall and motionless, gazing at them blankly. Then a moving replica materialized in front of the humanoid. The scientists could clearly see Mercury, Venus, Earth, and other planets revolving around our central sun. However, something about the known solar system appeared to be different. Beyond Pluto, there was an unknown orbiting planet. Now, this is in 1959. The scientists were puzzled at the sight of this 10th planet and the alien projection. When they started to ask questions, the monk was unwilling to reveal any information. In fact, he didn't even want to respond to the most basic questions that they were asking him. He simply did not wish to disclose the nature and origin of the displayed image of the solar system or the alien humanoid. Therefore, the Soviet scientists were unable to learn more about the projection. Anyway, they took this information back home with them. And, lo and behold, astronomers officially announced the existence of a large planet orbiting beyond Pluto in 2003. There are so many stories like this. Of these places where there's caches of technology that was left behind. There are all kinds of legends of caches of technology here in North America that the Atlanteans buried. Egypt, as you know, Giza, the whole Giza Plateau, they're said to be vaults. The Philippines, Indonesia, vaults underneath the island that are full of ancient technology. including current technology, that's being stored there for some reason. The Soviet Union, underneath the Sahara, and the ruins of cities that are long since gone or are unknown to history, where there is vaults of technology and information that's been stored and forgotten about. It's just remarkable stuff. Now, one of those ancient histories that few people talk about, that scientists, the Smithsonian in particular, here in North America has done everything it could to make sure nobody knew anything about, was giants. Now, giants roamed North America for quite some time, thousands and thousands of years ago. In fact, there are Native American legends of some of these giants being 30 feet tall. And there have been archaeological finds of giants here in the United States, in the Rockies, specifically Iowa, Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Nevada, and I believe down into Arizona and New Mexico, of these burial tombs with giants in them, 7 to 12 feet tall. Many of them with dark brown hair, red hair. It's just fascinating, and they're different than us, okay? They're different. They're not Homo sapien sapien. They're another race, Nephilim to be exact. They were not nice. They were very, very aggressive. They were cannibalistic. Most of the natives at the time feared them greatly. And they were incredibly strong, very greedy. You know, some of them became politicians, I think. And they have found many of their remains in burial mounds scattered throughout North America. Now, an interesting find took place in Pennsylvania. Let's see if we can get that. An interesting find took place in Pennsylvania, where they found 3 of these giants. I'll get to that in a second here. The Ohio Valley, they've had a tremendous amount. Scientists at the particular time, they had 6 fingers, 6 toes on each foot, each hand. They had 2 rows of teeth, 8.5 feet tall. They were discovered in a cave in Lovelock in the Ohio Valley. At first, they were considered fallen angels, but of course they weren't. They were just the remnants. But what happened is, in Pennsylvania, they uncovered 3 bodies, 2 males and a female. Both males had horns growing out of their skulls just above their eyebrows. So the archaeologists contacted the Philadelphia Museum, who then contacted the Smithsonian, and who came and got the remains, and they've never been seen from again. Shock and a surprise, right? There is so much to our history that at some point, I think I'm not sure how all of this is going to unfold anymore. I mean, it's very, very difficult to know exactly how this is all going to unfold because there's just so much going on. There's layer upon layer upon layer of shift and changes and events and expansion on all of these levels. And there is some contraction when we learn things and we take a step back and because we're aghast. Oh my God. That's a contraction. But at the same time, when we've processed that, I think it's important that we send energy back out of a blessing for the victims and an awareness that we will not ever allow this to happen again. And our conscious awareness will be expanded to the point where we will be cognizant if things like this happen again. In other words, we will be engaged. We won't be, our life focus won't be this anymore. It's going to be broadened as that of all of humanity. I think that in the end, the contrast between up and down, light and dark, is going to be so stark that we're all going to get it. And we're all going to be far more observant and pay more attention to what's happening to our race, to our species, to our children. Okay? And that so needs to happen. That just so needs to happen. I wanted to end this before we get to the questions with a tablet, a cuneiform tablet that's Sumerian. It's at least 5,000 years old, that the British Museum had. And apparently somebody decided to, or it was on a list of things to get to, and they finally got to their to-do list and to read what it was. And this is titled The World's Oldest Paycheck. And it's an ancient Sumerian clay tablet, cuneiform tablet, and it's a paycheck. And it's a Sumerian paycheck. This tablet was made around 3100 BC. They found it in Uruk, an ancient city of Sumer, and later Babylonia. It was founded somewhere near the Euphrates River. It depicts a human head eating from a bowl, meaning ration, conical vessel, meaning beer. There were undoubtedly several reasons why beer was so popular in Mesopotamia. The drink was safer and tasted better than the water. Sumerian workers were not only the ones who received payment in the form of beer, beer was also the central importance to the ancient Egyptians as well. Beer was a staple drink of the Egyptian workers and craftsmen, while wine was for the metropolitans. In ancient Egypt, workers often received wages and were often paid in beer and other supplies. And the workmen living in the workers' villages near Giza received beer 3 times a day as part of their rations. The daily ration could be as much as 4 to 5 liters a day. There was also records of poet and the father of English literature, Geoffrey Chaucer, received yearly a salary of 262 gallons of wine per year from Richard II. Anyway, It has long been believed that the Egyptians invented beer. Well, this proves that the Sumerians invented beer. And there might be some beer drinkers. I just thought you might find that interesting. I want to thank everyone who sent me a Christmas card. Thank you so much. You'll be getting a response here as soon as I'm up and feeling better. You know, great changes afoot. I know you guys probably really feel it. I certainly do. And there's a part of me that's really, really excited about the change. Because, Earth has issues. And if we're not going to be the custodians of ourselves or each other, then we're in a world of hurt. Okay? And we have to be the custodians. We're called to do it. We are for our own families. Why not for our neighbors and friends and our own countries? And that's not to say that at one point we won't all come together as a single planet. But ladies and gentlemen, we're not there yet. Just look at the anger. Look at the control, the manipulation. Chemtrails. They've been spraying chemtrails for 25 years. And only now, in the last 3 to 4 weeks, Yale and Harvard are openly talking about, well, we want to spray to dim the sun. What have you been doing for 25 years? Now they want the funding to come out in the open. It's just, they really think we're stupid. We have got to prove them wrong. We just have to. Okay? We got to make that a mission to prove them wrong, that we're not stupid. So with that, I think there's a little bit of time, 20 minutes or so. If somebody has a question, if you don't, that's fine. We can go home early. But JP, anytime you're up for asking a question. For the record, I have not heard from M in over 5 weeks, so I'm not sure what's going on. Okay, I'm not concerned. I miss the intel though. I do. One of the greatest gifts that was given to me was after a dark night of the soul. I damn sure didn't think it was at the time a gift because it was hard. It sucked. I'll just say it outright. It really sucked. It was very, very hard. But the introspection that came out of that was life-altering. And it's unfortunate that I needed to go through that twice, but I did. 2 dark nights of the soul. It should have just been one, but some of us, we have harder heads. And that introspection comes in handy, especially when we're faced with different life choices. And many of us are in that kind of a place right now, where we're coming to a fork in the road and we know it. And we're having to make different choices about different things, whether it's about a relationship, relationships, our children, our living situation, our career situation, jobs, health. Ladies and gentlemen, every one of us is blessed with innate common sense. With an innate spiritual knowing. And I encourage you to engage with that, to learn to trust your own inner guidance. It's very, very important, because as consciousness expands, and that there's no stopping it, it's happening. Awareness expands. Self-awareness, expands. And your ability to process more information becomes profound. And the information that you're going to be getting is about you. It's about you yourself. It's about your connection not only to this moment, but also other parts of you that are vibrating at a higher frequency. Those other parts of you are obligated to help you. Okay, you helping you. Trust that. Reach for it. Know your own frequency. Okay? Once you know your own frequency, and you're connected to the source of your frequency, which is not only other aspects of yourself, but it's also to source, to creator. And I'm not talking about aliens. I am not talking about Nibiru, Anunnaki, A's. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about soul, the creation of soul. All right? I'm not talking about the physical. I'm talking about the source of all things. When you get to that place, and you have to invest in you to learn to do this, okay? And there's no magic way to do it. Everyone's different. The journey for everyone is different. And it's personal. The empowerment that you will have will be so great that you could weather any storm. In fact, you become the storm. And what you focus on, you create and you get. And by your very nature, all of us are benevolent. Some have chosen a different path. But they weren't created dark. Everyone was created benevolent. So as we watch all these pieces come together, and those broken pieces find their way back home, it would be great if most of us are already there at the party waiting for them to show up, so we can greet them and embrace them and help them forgive. Because I would think that after millions and billions of years, most of us are pretty tired of all the conflict. I would think so. I know I am. I'm sick of it. JP, I saw you popped in and I was still rambling. If you're still there, please.
I am here.
Hey, thank you.
So, thank you very much. The first question is from another JP, Giacomo Picari. Did the A's prepare or enhance your physiology in any way so that you would be more compatible with their energy and vibration?
No. No. My soul was already attuned to them because before my incarnation here, I was there. And the soul always remembers. For example, the person who asked the question, wherever you were before you physically incarnated here on Earth, your soul remembers it. Your soul's a library. It's a galactic library. Each one of us is. Okay, now we have a spiritual library. And then we have a physical library. Now, when you're out of the physical body, all right, you don't lose your library because you're not in physical form. It's always with you. Okay, and it's all color, light, and sound. That's all everything is made up of. It's just that things vibrate at certain frequencies, which determines its physicality. So if you're not in your physical form, you still have your library with you. And that will resonate to the different places you've already been, whether it's in this dimension or another. Whether it's in a human physiology, Homo sapiens sapien, or whether it was some other physical form in another place, another dimension, etc. That's my understanding about how it all works. It's really about the soul. We've been tricked into focusing so much on the physical that we've neglected the soul part, and that was pointed out to me a long time ago. And I think I've talked about it years ago. But not to repeat myself, but all the broken pieces find their way home. We eventually start to figure things out. It's just like at some point in our lives, it's just like everything clicks into place. And you finally get what your life was about. Your decisions, your choices, the people that moved in and out of your life, the friends you had, the friends you've lost, the loves, the unrequited loves. It all clicks in, and you can see why you made choices and what the results of those choices were. And you come to peace with it. You understand what it was all about. And when you get to that place, you can look at all those people and all those events and you can bless them because they helped you along the way to the path where you are now and to the person who you've become now. You know, it's just, it's an interesting journey. Life is just an interesting journey. No matter where you are, whatever dimension, it's a journey. It'll be different. They're never without challenges, from what I understand. There are varying degrees of contrast, but it's always a journey of exploration, self-exploration. Okay.
All right. Here's another question. This is from Michael H. Can you recap the reasons for the Mandela effect? It has changed the Bible recently, and to some it looks nefarious, i.e. the lion will lie down and the lamb, used to be, is now the wolf will lie down and the lamb.
I don't know anything about that.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are a lot of other people talking about that. That's not where my focus has been.
Okay. From Terry Kennedy, Alex, have you connected with Morena yet?
I just said I hadn't heard from him in 5 weeks.
All right. Okay. Sorry, my internet went out for a short period of time just before you were about to answer questions.
That's okay.
From Pete Lemke, Alex, could you give what you know regarding CERN and the interdimensional entities they're contacting?
I have no updates whatsoever on that. It's interesting how quiet everything's become about CERN. I'm not sure what's going on with that. The last time I heard anything, which I've shared with you, was that they were trying to open up portals to Saturn. And they were being shut down. It was being closed off. So I don't know. That was something that Carol from LA. I enjoy your emails, Carol. And this is about a ship, a starship, a very large one, planet size, that's following Mercury around. Well, apparently there are people who have it in their head that that's Lucifer. that's Lucifer in that starship, and he's getting ready to come back. Now, I'm not quite sure how to say this, but my understanding was that Lucifer, at least that's what we're taught, was an angel created by God, not one of the lower gods, but the God, the creator of the universe. So my question is, what would Lucifer need with a starship? Number one. Doesn't make sense that he'd need a starship. Number two, 1958 to 1962, at the Second Ecumenical Council in Rome, the church admitted to creating the devil, the myth of the devil. They admitted to doing this. And I find it fascinating that everyone has just ignored that fact and has continued to propagate this story to the point where they create devil worshippers and all this stuff. So let's just assume for a second that the devil isn't real. That means all this shit that's being done in the name of the devil worshiping, sacrifice, satanic worship, all this stuff, that's on you that are doing this. That's all on you. You've all created this horrible reality, believing that it was real. And this comes back to the church. They've got a lot to answer for. They really, really do. They have a lot to answer for. And that's another subject which we will definitely be going into at some point. Okay. That's all I got on that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, from Nancy Statlander. Hi, Alex. In one of your recent webinars, you were talking about grounding and mentioned that the sun gazing is good, except make sure it's not the sun simulator you're looking at. Can you tell us about the sun simulator? That's one of the top questions I have for Em when I hear from him again. But let's just look at that topic for a second. The sun simulator, a device, technology that was created by someone, somewhere, and has been put in orbit to replicate our sun. And it's large. It's significantly large. Who put it up there? Where'd the rockets come from that put it up into space? Was it our space program that did it? The one that's not supposed to exist? Hi, am I out of time? Okay, thank you. Man, they don't miss a thing. Someone put it up there, and I think we should probably be talking about that and the technology. Guys, I gotta go. My time is up. I apologize. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you found it insightful, please like the video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future updates. If you have any questions relating to today's video, please also leave them below. We read all the comments and take on board what our viewers have to say about Alex Collier's work. Remember, your support helps Alex Collier's knowledge and the messages from the Andromedans reach more people. If you'd like to support the channel even more, you can give us a super thanks tip by clicking the heart icon with a $sign. It really helps our team bring you more content. Also, be sure to visit alexcollier.org to sign up for our regular email newsletter. It's the best way to stay updated with the latest news, exclusive content, and upcoming live webinars. For the latest insights from Alex Collier, check out alexcollier.live. And if you want to explore over 250 past webinars, head over to alexcollier.tv. Thank you for being a part of this journey and supporting Alex Collier's work. We couldn't do this without you, and we're genuinely grateful for your support. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the vast mysteries of our universe. If you would like to see the Andromedan contactee Alex Collier live via video stream, we hold a live online seminar every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. For more information on upcoming live webinars, please visit alexcollier.org.